setup too. Is Friday is like our only good day for us to do anything.
Yeah. So we've been doing that, but I've been trying not to drink. I've been trying to only have drinks on Saturday. So I try not to, if I'm going to have anything at all, I try and save it for Saturday only. So I don't want to get fat again.
Well, I guess, Boogie, so you're our 12th, guest to come on the show with us. And I've been looking forward to it. I've been telling Mike about you and how we first met, gotten into radio, and how I was your intern. I did some crazy stuff. Well, I guess I did one crazy thing, not a bunch of crazy things. But I appreciate you coming on and chatting with us, man.
Oh man, wait, are we recording?
Yeah, we're going. Yeah, we're live.
Are we rocking and rolling?
We're live.
I wasn't sure. Your tone didn't change at all. I didn't know.
Who's
this? Yes. No, this is a pleasure, man, and I'm so glad to see. You're probably gonna hear dogs barking and stuff.
That's all good. That's all good, man.
I'm sitting at my house right now. But yeah, no, I'm glad that you're doing this, man. Like I know that you didn't necessarily have the deepest passion for radio, but I know that this side of it was something that you were, super passionate about. So I'm glad you're doing this. I'm glad I get to be on it.
Yeah, man, it's funny. Radio, I didn't have my own show, or I didn't get into that kind of thing, but being around it, it's like a disease or a virus that gets in your blood. And then when I left it, and working this 9-to-5 job, I'm not being creative at all. So I miss doing this, the production side of it, just being creative in general, man. So it's something that Mike and I have been talking about doing for a long time. So we just figured, why the hell not? And why not just do it?
Yeah, you might as well. And I tell you, man, that's what people miss the most when they get out of radio is the rush of it. I mean, I tried to get out of radio. I tried to go manage restaurants for a while. And that was a rush because I was hammered the entire time. But so trying to not look drunk constantly was a rush. But I know that it's not the best paying job. It's not what it used to be. Like, people almost look down on you when you're on the radio now. But like today, me and my co-host had a phenomenal show. And that feeling right there is just, I don't know. It gets in your blood. If you're a born entertainer, or if you have that, I can't explain it. I really can't. Everybody who gets out of radio ends up coming back.
Yeah. I was telling Mike about how we first met, and I don't know if we want to go back and do all the details, but I listened to you and Boogie, or you and Mimi, on 93.3, the hip hop station, when I was in high school. And just hearing you talk, this sounds really weird, I guess, but I was like, man, I feel like me and Boogie would be really good friends. Like, just listening to you talk. And
said every stalker ever.
I know.
He's like, I had the exact opposite feeling about you.
I know. And when I went and applied, I was going to college, and I needed to take an internship. So I wanted to take an internship at the radio station, and I think they wanted to put me with KLBJ FM with Dudley and them. And I was like, no, I don't think y'all were even taking an intern at the time. And I was like, well, ask them and let's see if we can do it. And I think I was the only person or something. Like, you made a joke about it. Like, you're the only, why do you want to be here?
Yeah, you're our one and only intern ever. The only one that ever even wanted to be on the show.
But dude, the Hot 93 days were, like, I always think about how much I learned. Like, I think the things that I'm successful now at my job now is stuff that I've learned not only when I was an intern, but just throughout my radio career, just my radio job, just listening to people talk, listening to you tell stories in a quick, you got to be quick, right? It's like the 30 seconds, the 60 seconds, and you're getting the what, the where, the why, the how, all that main stuff that's been translated so well to my job now. It's helped me out. But I think about those times, man, the club nights and all that stuff that we used to do at 93 is some of the funnest times of my life.
I hate to say it, I'm 12 years older than you, or 14 years older than you, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we were kind of going through the same stage of life, even though I was 14 years older than you. But no, I look back on those times as I thought it would never end. Like I never thought that those days would come to a close. And in a way, I'm glad they did, because I mean, I was living unhealthy, man. Like I was drunk 6 nights a week. I mean, it was just, and I'm talking stumbling drunk 6 nights a week. It wasn't just I had a drink or two. I mean, it was bad. But it was life. I mean, in Austin, that was our spot. Like every bar you went into, everybody knew you. It was free shots. It was drinks. It was a ride home. It was just, all right, this is the best life ever. And I look back on those days so fondly. It's funny to me that you and I remain friends after all this time. Like, it's crazy to me. And I look back at that as just one of the best times of my life. And I never thought it was going to end. And when it did, I took it really hard. I mean, it took me years, probably just until a few years ago, that I finally got over being let go from what felt like family to me. I mean, but it was the best times of my life. Professionally, I'll say that, in case my kids are listening.
Well, I was telling Mike that when we used to go and when you transitioned away from the morning show and then you started doing afternoons at 93, that's when I was working overnights, and I used to hang around after. So I'd go in at midnight, and then I'd get off at like 8:30 or 9, and then I would hang around all day. So I was up for like 24 hours and hanging out with Boogie while he did his afternoon show. But we used to go get lunch, or we used to go to barbecue places or whatever, and people would recognize your voice. And me being 19 or 20 back then, I felt like I was with a celebrity. I was like, man, I'm with Boogie right now. Like, it was such a cool feeling. And what 93. Like, talking to friends in Austin now, till this day, Hot 93 still remains a topic of discussion. All the personalities, you, me, D-Train, all of the folks there left such an impact with what all the good stuff that y'all did. Y'all did a lot of stuff to help the community, but y'all are always out, and it's still a big vibe there in Austin.
At the beginning of The Sopranos, are you guys familiar? Did you watch the entire Sopranos series?
No, I hadn't.
Or no?
No.
All right. Well, at the very beginning, Tony Soprano says, "Do you ever feel like you're getting in at the end of something?" And that's how I felt about Hot 93. That was the last time that you were ever going to have a fully staffed radio station where nothing was pre-recorded. Everybody was live up until, from 6 a.m. to midnight, everybody was live. You can't find that anywhere. It was the last time that, it was one of the last times that, for a long time, I felt like it was the last time that radio mattered. Until this most recent job I got, and I can kind of see it happening again. But yeah, I think that's why it made an impact, because we were young, we were hungry, we were aggressive, we loved what we did. We were all always at the radio station. I mean, I would get there early to hang out with Mimi, or I would come in late to hang out with who was ever doing nights at the time. It was, the passion came through the speakers, and you just don't get that anymore. I mean, now radio is, you got one guy who's on in 27 different cities, doing a terrible job in all of them. It's just not that way anymore. So I felt like that was like the last dying real radio that you're ever going to see. And I don't know if people miss it or not. I would hope that maybe they do a little bit. Maybe people just don't care anymore because there's so many options. But I'll tell you this, like, we're doing real radio again. Me and my co-host are crushing it. We're number 1 plus. And yes, we're on in a small town, but it doesn't matter. People are still, especially now, we're so disconnected from everybody. Like you and I, when do we ever actually talk?
No,
we text, and
yeah,
there's no human connection. It's like, yeah, I can get on my phone and I can get any song ever made in 2 seconds. But what I don't get is that human connection. And that's what people had in Austin to us, was just such a deep human connection, because they were either getting crazy with me at the club on Saturday, or, you know what I'm saying? We were everywhere all the time. And that's why it was special and remains special to this day. I'm sorry, I'm really hopped up on caffeine. I've been up since 6:30 this morning.
We actually do.
I apologize if I'm rambling. It's probably not interesting to anybody. I'm sure no one's even made it this far. No. Like, who's this guy?
No, but that's what I was telling Mike. I was like, we usually, before we talk to people, we like to go stalk their Instagram, or go to their website if they have a website, and we like to do some investigative stuff. And I was like, Mike, this is one where we don't have to work as hard, because we can rely on Boogie to do the talking.
No pressure.
Yeah. Especially now, I feel bad, Mike. Like, you haven't gotten a word in edgewise.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Y'all need to catch up. I'm trying to learn more about you. Looks like you're bringing radio back in Minnesota, huh? How's being in Minnesota?
It's, it is what it is. It's rough for about 4 months out of the year. It's really like, God dang. But like now it's 50 degrees out right now. So it's not this insanely bitter cold. I mean, a couple of weeks ago it was 27 below zero, which is just rattling cold.
Wow.
But you know what? I mean, I was born here. I understand the vibe here. It's a much more, the funny thing about Minnesota that you'll learn is that, maybe not so much Texas, but living in Austin, no, everyone's afraid to become an adult. Like everyone's afraid to get a real job. That's why it was so hard to run a DJ business down there in Austin, because everyone was a DJ. It was like, Jesus, I can't get a job because everyone's a DJ. Here, it's much more blue collar. Like people get a job out of high school and they work that thing till the day they die. They marry their high school sweetheart. They stay with them till the day they die. It's just a much different vibe here than it was in Austin. I mean, I'm not familiar with the rest of Texas, but people are just more, I want to say just more down to earth, and just, I don't know if it's the weather or what. They just don't expect as much. I can't explain it. They're just like different people. I don't know, man, but it's cool. Like summer's right around the corner. We'll get the boat out, land of 10,000 lakes. So we'll be out on the boat all summer, and it'll be in the summertime. You're like, I love this place, and then right about November, you're like, oh my God, what the hell?
This place is awful. It's funny. My wife is from Ohio, and we'll go to Ohio, and it's really cold compared to Texas, right? -14. But I kind of love it. I love that you actually get a winter there, but I'm assuming living there, all the time, it gets kind of old with the bitter cold all the time.
It's more the work that goes into it being cold all the time. Like you can't just run out and take something to the trash, so you gotta put on some boots and everything. It's just like, God, I just want to run this recycling out.
Right.
Or like we got a big, we were down in Texas in December, and we got a big snowstorm while we were gone. And all I could worry about the entire time I was in Texas was, oh my God, someone's going to be able to tell I didn't shovel. I'm not home. They're going to break into my house. But there is something called Minnesota nice, where people up here are insanely friendly. And so someone shoveled my entire driveway and sidewalk and everything else. So I was like,
wow.
I don't know. So there are a lot of the people here are insanely friendly.
So if you don't shovel if you're gone and you don't shovel snow, like that's a risk. Like people know you're away and they could come break in.
Well, yeah, if they don't see any footprints in it and it's just fresh snow sitting there.
Wow.
You would know, all right, they haven't pulled their cars out in a while. They haven't gotten their mail. They haven't done anything. So they would just know. But like I said, people are nice. They knew I wasn't home. They shoveled my driveway, and I luckily came home to a house that wasn't broken into, which of course I ruined my entire vacation worrying about. But that's what I do.
What a thing to worry about. Are you picking up the accent?
No, I worked so hard when I moved to Texas to shed that accent, because I never thought I had it. The one way you can always tell with a Minnesotan is when they say the word bag, because they say bag. Mm-hmm. And like the O's, like if someone says gross, it's like gross. It's really hard to explain. It's funny because my wife who's like is a Texan is I can hear it in her voice sometimes, because it's weird. It's kind of like in Austin, people didn't really have Southern accents that much. But if you go to the outlying areas, that's where it really is thick.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here. Like Minneapolis, I live right by Minneapolis, which is a big city. So no one really has a Minnesota accent there. But as you move out, people just have it thick. So I'm trying my hardest not to get it again, because it took me forever to shake that thing.
That's all I remember is like Minnesota, like the O.
Yeah.
Did you pick up?
It's not a charming.
It's not a charming. I think it's cute. I like it.
It's not a charming accent.
Did you pick up scrapbooking?
No, why do you got? Because of behind me here?
No, because that's the thing too, man. When it gets cold, you just start scrapbooking.
Really?
That's what they teach us in Texas, at least.
Oh no, man. We ain't got time for that. We're too busy out shoveling and snowblowing. But the cold air makes you tough, man. Like it makes you. It's like you can't, like, what are you gonna do? Bitch about it? It's cold. You still got to get outside. So shut the F up and get outside. And yes, it's cold. We're all freaking cold. Just get it done. And that's very much the attitude up here. People walk faster up here. They get things done quicker because it's like, I don't want to be outside. It's terrible. Let's just get it done and get out of here. It's very much the attitude up here.
It's like the people from Iceland, man. They are stronger people. You're probably onto something, you know.
Yeah, because if you live in like California, those people are all soft as hell.
Yeah.
They got the perfect weather 100 days out of the year. I mean, or 100% out of the year. So
they're just chilling too.
Man, when I moved back, it was depressing. Like the first couple winters I spent here, I was like, why did I leave Texas? Like, this is terrible. And now it's just, you know, again, stop being a bee and get over it. And let's move on, you know?
Man, so I kind of want to get into that, your whole story. I think you could probably write a freaking good novel about being, you know, like having this successful radio show in Austin and then them flipping formats for whatever political reason they flipped formats for. And then you started this journey of hustling in Texas, moving to Minnesota. Talk about that, man. What was your mindset going forward after Hot 93.3 just flipped formats?
Well, the reason they flipped formats is because it was mostly car dealerships and nightclubs that were advertising on that station. That's a dangerous place to get your radio station into, because if one of them goes away, you're screwed. And so that was kind of the thought. They couldn't really sell the hip hop station. So I was number one for 6 years. And so I thought I was the Teflon Don. I thought I would be there forever. And then one day I wasn't. And I'll never forget that drive home, man. Look, I'm not discounting anyone who's ever gotten a cancer diagnosis or something like that, but it's how I felt, where everything was moving in slow motion. I couldn't hear anything. 10 people called me. I don't remember a single conversation I had that day. And I got home and I had a 4-month-old daughter, and I had just gotten married a month earlier. And I felt about this big. I felt like, my God, this little 4-month-old is depending on the biggest loser ever to walk the face of the earth. Like, that's how I felt. And you know, it's like the stages of dying, where they say at first it's denial, then it's anger, then it's acceptance, whatever those stages are. I went through that with losing that job, because the next morning I woke up, I put in like a motivational CD, and I was like, no, this will not be the end of me, and whatever. And it's kind of when this is 2008, 2009. So the economy had crashed. No one was hiring. I couldn't find a job. And so I spent 5 months out of work, just feeling like a loser, man. Like, because every time I would go somewhere in Austin, people would say, didn't you used to be Boogie, or things like that? And it just was heart wrenching, because I was like, I still am. And so I couldn't get a job. So I ended up getting a job in Minnesota back then too, in 2010, in Minneapolis, which to me was cool. It's like, all right, this is a bigger city than Austin. I'm moving up the ladder. As much as I don't want to leave, this is what you're supposed to do. We got up here. We hated it. 6 months later, we moved back to Corpus Christi, Texas. I got a job on a hip hop station there. Corpus Christi, man, no offense to anybody who lives there. Look, y'all are, come on, get into at least the 2000s, man. Like, it's just, everything was run. And I loved the people I worked with, but everything was run down, and my wife was pregnant. And so we would go to the hospital, and it looked like a hospital out of the 1980s. My wife was like, I'll be damned if I'm having a child down here. So she moved back to Austin, and I was down in Corpus Christi still. And that lasted until my son was born. And I'll never forget, I was driving to Corpus one day, and I checked my bank account to see how much I had in my savings, checked to see if it was at least 3 months worth. And I walked in and I quit that morning. I didn't tell my wife I was going to quit. I didn't tell anyone I was going to quit. And because I was driving for every weekend, I'd drive back to Corpus Christi. It was like a 4-hour drive. I was like, this is effing stupid. So I go into my office, my boss's office, who was a friend of mine. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I quit. I started becoming a blubbering fool, because I hate quitting jobs. And I'll never forget. I went and I bought a 40 ounce, and I went and sat by the water, and I was like, all right, now it's time to get back to Austin and find out what the hell I'm going to do next. Come back to Austin, get a job managing a CC's Pizza, which is like a pizza buffet place. I don't even know, are they even left?
I
can't find one anymore.
They sure are.
We're big fans of them.
I love CC's. I miss CC's. They don't have anything like that here. But so I get a job managing a CC's. I do that for 6 months, and I'm like, this is terrible. Like, it was just the lowest of low end of human beings were coming. Like, you're stealing a $3 buffet. Like, people would come in and their girlfriend would buy a buffet, and then they'd be like trying to sneak food out their plate. I'm like, it's $3 freaking.
Yeah.
So I would just lose my temper all the time. So I was like, all right, this isn't for me. So I go manage another pizza place that was by my house called Brooklyn Heights. And I stayed there for about a year and a month. And I just wasn't good at it. I wanted to be back on the radio. So I got a call to be on a AAA station, which is like adult album alternative. It was called KGSR. I don't even know if it still exists anymore. Like they flipped that station so many times. I'm not sure. I know it still exists. I think it's called ACL Radio or Austin Steel Limits Radio now or something. Still a great station.
Yeah.
Still great music. I still listen all the time. But so I went there and I thought, well, cool. Now I'm on a station for older people. I'm older. This is it. I got back to where I want to be. I'm back in Austin. I'm back on the radio. I'm making a name for myself. The ratings are on the way up. What could possibly happen? So, 3 years. For 3 years, I rode that wave. Sales were up. Ratings were up. I thought everyone was happy. Nope. They bring me in the office one day. And the funny thing is, I had a dream the night before that I was going to get fired. And driving to work that morning, I was like, I'm getting fired today. And I didn't know why. I didn't know how, but I knew I was getting fired. And I just had a banging show. It was on a Friday. It was fun, the energy. And I knew as soon as I went to go talk to my boss and her door was closed, because it was never closed, I was like, this is it. They're in there talking about firing me. And sure enough, they fired me that day.
Whoa.
Now that I was okay with, because I felt out of place on that station. Like they didn't want me anyway, because it was kind of known as the hippie station in Austin. And as much as I loved it, and I loved the music, I could tell I just didn't fit in. Like I was kind of still this top 40 sounding DJ on a station that didn't really want that. You know, they wanted me to talk about the issues of music and all this. And I was like, I'd rather have fun. So now, all right, I'm out of work again. But luckily, I had a pretty successful DJ business at the time. So that was able to float me along. And then I ended up getting a job at a Christian station as literally like an entry-level radio job, just because I needed something. I needed to report taxes on something. So I take this entry-level radio job at a Christian station. And I'm telling you something, here's the first time that I really realized that there's a plan for all of us, because as I'm told I get this job, I find out my dad only has a few more months to live. And I honestly think that job came along at the exact time I needed it, because I had never listened to Christian music before. Never really, I still don't to this day. I mean, I don't hate it as much as I used to, but working with these people that were so positive and so uplifting, and, you know, who would pray for you if you needed it. I was just like, what is this? You know? And so I think that job came along at just the right time for me. And I worked there for about a year and a half. And then I just like it. One common theme is that I love to blow up my life when I feel like I'm stagnant, and I felt stagnant. Like it was an entry-level radio job. Anybody could do it. I wasn't using my talents. Yeah, the DJ business was going well, but I was having to grind my ass off just to make anything. So this job opportunity comes up in Minnesota. And I was like, you know, a friend of mine runs a successful wedding business up there. We can branch off into DJing, so I can multiply what I'm doing down here times 10. I'll be back on the radio, so I'm more valuable to those kind of jobs. Let's move to Minnesota. So, and the funny thing is, I still remember what it felt like when we sold our house in Austin. I was like, this is a mistake. Oh my God, no one does this. No one blows up their life like this. But we did it anyway. And we ended up moving up here to Minnesota. And, you know, it's going good. The DJ business actually did not pan out. I'm not good at managing people. So we just killed it. I was like, I hate when we have 3 weddings in one day and I'm having to send out DJs and all this stuff. So we killed it. But that's kind of an abbreviated version, which was still really long, of kind of the journey that I've been on for the past, 12 years since Hot 93 went away. And the funny thing is it just, you learn so much. Like I was telling Jonathan this the other day, you learn so much when you blow up your life. Like moving here was harder than I thought. I was just coming back to where I was from, and it'll be easy. You know, I'll have friends and family and it'll be great. And none of that. I've seen like one friend that I used to have since I moved back here. My family does not get together as much as I thought they did. So I don't really have that. But I don't know. I still feel like as painful as it's been, go through it again because of the growth that I've experienced over the past 3 years of being here. The losing 40 pounds, which I never thought I would do. I thought I was just going to be fat and tubby for the rest of my life. But when you hit rock bottom, you start to analyze everything. Why do I feel so terrible? Like, why do I just feel awful all the time? Well, okay, I'm fat. That's one thing. You're embarrassed by the way you look. Whenever you see yourself in a picture, you're embarrassed by it. Let's get that on track. All right, I'm gonna lose 40 pounds, lost 40 pounds. All right, you hate this wedding business that you have. It ruins every day. And it wasn't my business partner's fault, and it wasn't anybody's fault except for I'm just not good at managing people. So I was working 1,000 times harder than I should just so no one would be upset with me. So all this growth that I've experienced over the past 3 years, none of it would have happened if I would have stayed in Austin. Yeah, I'd still be doing the same thing. I'd still be fat. I'd still be drunk. I still would be, just not making any growth. I would just be stagnant. And so, with this last move, I think that, and now like we're crushing it at the radio station. I mean, people look at you like, oh, you're in a small town. It's like radio is radio. And if you're number one in a small town, you'd be number one in a big town because it's all the same size.
Right.
So, boy, I told you I had way too much caffeine.
No, that's good. Hey, so I was telling Mike that you're a DJ too, and you talked about it, but I don't think people realize how much you work or what time goes into planning when you're a DJ. I did it for a little bit. Now, when I say I was a wedding DJ, Todd would Todd hooked it up big, right? Because Todd would throw me a lot of money to DJ a wedding or a couple of weddings a month, but you were doing a wedding every weekend, sometimes multiple a day, right? I mean,
sometimes I'd have a boat party from noon to 3 and then a wedding from 5 to 10. And then I'd be back up the next morning for a fundraiser. I mean, I was grinding, but the reason why is because I was good at what I did. I very much could read a crowd. It was never the same playlist. It was very much because I love it so much. I wasn't phoning it in ever. And so people just picked up on that. And so I was a preferred vendor at so many places. I would do Wednesday weddings, and then get up to do the morning show the next day, and then have a Thursday evening menu tasting. It was nuts. But here's the problem. Because I didn't believe in myself, I wasn't charging enough. So I was having to work 10 times as hard to barely get by. Because I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do that for $200 and give up my whole Saturday like a dumbass.
I think that's one thing you and I think Mike too. Mike probably not as much, but we're the worst at negative self-talking. And for me, there's no one else that is gonna be harsher on themselves or on me than my own personal self-talk. And me and you, we go back and forth all the time talking about that. You help me when I get my little lows of, man, I'm not feeling it right now. I suck at this. You have a quote, or there's always something that you've listened to that you can send me and share me to kind of pick my spirits up.
Well, and that comes from me, constantly being knocked around by the radio business and in moving here. It's funny because moving here, I didn't have anyone anymore. I think down there I was coddled a little bit because I was that guy from the radio who everyone knew. And so I feel like I was kind of handled with kid gloves a lot of times. And so I didn't mentally grow. And then moving here, I didn't have anyone, and no one cared I was sad. No one cared that I, was whatever. They just didn't care. And so it came into me saying, all right, how do you fix these problems on your own? When your brain starts telling you can't do it, you can't do it. Well, that's nothing. That's your subconscious just telling you something that you believe. So how do you change the way you believe? And that's kind of why with you and I, the negative, it's like, if you're going to tell yourself you can't do something, then you can't. The successful people, Jonathan, that you and I see and that we admire so much, they have nothing that we don't have except for they believe in themselves. Maybe it's the way, maybe they were brought up with more positive parents than you and I were. Our parents didn't give a damn about me growing up. And so I never had someone telling me like, yeah, you can do it. They didn't even care about giving me nutrition, let alone,
they didn't feed me.
We used to have corn as a main course as dinner. So we were struggling, Jack, but I think that's what I was trying to tell you the other day, Jonathan, because because of COVID-19, I lost a lot of weddings up here. My income is way down. And so I went to go get a job at a hardware store. And this is nothing against anyone working at a hardware store, but I was just sitting in the parking lot of the hardware store on my first day, and I was like, I don't want to do this. Why am I doing this? And I was like, okay. Then it's like, all right, you're doing it to help your family. But it's like you don't want to do this at all. So you're not helping your family because you're going to be miserable the entire time you're not here. And it's not having a support system, which has made me the way I am. You know, my wife obviously is always there for me, and she'll always listen when I complain, and you know, God bless her heart. But not when you don't have a support system, you become your own. And that is when you finally just realize, like, all right, I feel down. How do I get myself out of it without complaining to anybody, without looking for outside help to fix it? How do I fix this on my own? And that's why I'm always sending you a quote. Or it's like I have kind of a nightmare summer coming up where I have like 22 weddings I have to do, and I'm not going to hardly make any money. So instead of like being depressed about it, it's like, all right, let's break it down to what it really looks like. How many Saturdays will I have off? All right, cool. There's a few Saturdays off in the summer. How many am I actually getting paid for? All right, I'll get paid for these. So that's all right. I'll make my mortgage payment that month. That's cool. And there was the quote I sent you the other day is, as long as you stay living in today, you can get through anything. As long as you're not, because I kept saying, like, all right, if I can just make it to September, what the hell? Like that's 6 months away. That's way too much to take on at one time. So it's like, all right, what am I doing today? Well, today I'm fine. I got nothing today. If everything's okay today, then everything's okay, period. So that is the biggest thing that I've taken away from, you know, you and I talking, Jonathan, we're pretty much the same person. Is we get down on ourselves. We're like, oh man. And no one else feels that way about us. Yeah. No one else looks at us like, oh, that guy, he doesn't know how to podcast. What the hell is he doing? You know, no one says that. You got a podcast. Everyone looks at you like you're a professional. You know, it's hard. It's hard to, but once it's almost like you have to train that muscle. You have to train that brain muscle to not be negative. And the people that do that are the ones that we admire, the ones that are successful, or the ones who feel they're successful, even when we would judge them not.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of that. I don't know if Jonathan, I don't know if you and I will ever think we've made it. I honest to God don't. You could get 10 million downloads on the podcast, and I bet you'd be like, well, why wasn't it 11? You know? Why didn't it happen faster?
Yeah.
You know? How come I didn't get enough thumbs up? It's just, that's what we do. But really lately, I've just been working on that negative self-talk because I think that's where it all stems from, everything. You know, and then because when I look back, I'm like, damn, Kelly, you've moved across this country multiple times, and you have a 100% success rate at getting through things. You've never failed at getting through something. So stop thinking that why is this going to be the time I fail? Is 22 weddings enough to break me? No, it's not. All right, so you'll get through it. Yeah, it ain't going to be fun, but are you going to come out stronger? Are you going to learn something? Of course. Will I maybe make some connections so I can start charging $2,000 for a wedding? Yeah. Probably. You know, so it's all these things, man. Oh God, I should have had some water before we jumped on.
That's good.
I'm on a hot one.
Keep going, please.
Well, it's just it really is since I have an hour drive to work, because I live right by Minneapolis, but I work about an hour outside of Minneapolis. It's really given me time to. Again, this all goes back to there being a plan. I think that everything had to happen the way it was for me to finally, at 45 years old, which I wish this would have happened 15 years ago, but whatever. You know, the race is long and it's only with yourself. But I wish this would have happened so much longer ago, because I'm finally getting to a point where, one, I'm comfortable with myself, because I spend 2 hours a day driving with myself with no one else around. Sometimes I won't even listen to the radio. And it's helped me just work through this mental crap that I had. And some of it isn't even our fault. Like, some of it comes from our childhood, and everything we see in reality, we cut up with all the mess that our parents put in our head, and we put our twist on it. And then life seems terrible half the time when it's not. You know, I think probably, Jonathan, you and I both suffer from terrible anxiety.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things I've learned is like, all right, why are you anxious right now? What is happening right now that's making you feel this way? And then I start to deconstruct it, and 90% of the time I realize, well, that's nothing. You're upset about something that might happen 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Shut it off.
I know. Dude, go ahead. No, I was going to say, Mike.
I've said enough.
No, I was going to say, Mike does a really good job. So Mike got me into running. I've always been a weightlifter, right? Kind of half-assed, but just eating like crap. So Mike got me into running, and his saying is exactly what you said, is like, on those long runs, you know, we're doing 14 miles or 15 miles, check in with yourself and say, how am I doing right now? If you think about, oh, I'm on mile 2 and I got, 10 more miles left, that's going to be overwhelming. So he always says, hey, how you doing? Even if we're running together or we're not, it's like a habit now. I check in. I'm like, how am I doing right now? I'm doing good. My calf kind of hurts, but I'm still doing good. And I can apply that to that, but I'm not very good at applying that to like real life yet.
Well, because the stakes are higher at life.
Right.
If your leg starts to hurt, you quit running, fixed. At life, if you're worried about your kids or your job or your income or your house or your cars, the stakes are higher. And so that's why it's hard to apply those principles to everything that's going around us. But hopefully the longer you guys run, which I see you run like crazy, like every weekend, I'm like, it's like 6 a.m. How did you already run 14 miles? makes me feel so like terrible about myself, but you're right.
That's the goal.
I would imagine. Yeah. I'll do like maybe 20 minutes on the elliptical, and I'm like, all right, that's enough cardio for today. I don't want to get too skinny.
That's the weight one. I don't want to get too big.
Yeah. Just making a good point.
Man, let's talk about the weight loss, because you've been like in Austin, you were in a gym, right? I mean, you worked out, but it hasn't ever really been like part of like a daily ritual of yours. But I started noticing in pictures, I think you didn't announce that you were trying to lose weight until I think like you started, like I noticed that you were losing a lot of weight, and I was like, man, what is this guy doing? Like he's on a health kick or something. How did you lose the weight, and what made you get started?
Well, yeah, you're right. In Austin, I was working out, but I was also, my nutrition was just god awful. I mean, I would go work out so I could go have beer, like so stupid. But like, all right, I burned 600 calories.
Let me have a 12 pack.
Go get 1,200.
But so when we moved up here, I think it was when I refer to it as my awakening. When it started happening, when I just started realizing like, man, I am miserable. And I had no reason to be at the time. It was a matter of deconstructing everything. And one of the things I was most miserable about was weight. Like I would see myself in pictures, when you're on the radio, you end up in a lot of pictures and a lot of videos, people who listen want a picture with you. And it was probably February of last year, right before COVID hit. We had like our last live event at the radio station. And I saw a picture of myself and I was like, I didn't even recognize myself. And I was so grossed out by it. I had this shirt on, which is kind of baggy now, but it was like tight, like the buttons. I was like, what in the hell happened to me? So I decided, like, we have this program up here called Livia, and I had seen it used to be called MetaFast, now it's called Livia. I saw people losing weight with it, and I was like, all right, well, maybe that works, because I saw it working. And so we were doing these things called local 99s. When everybody's business shut down, we were showcasing businesses like, hey, we're still open, still doing business.
Right.
You can still come in. And so Livia called in to do their local 99, and I was like, man, I'd love to link up with you guys. And they were like, yeah, sure. And it was like it was so funny. I was like, we were going into summer, and I was like, damn, why am I starting this at the start of summer? I want to drink and eat and just have a good time this summer. But then I thought, well, you're not going to enjoy yourself because you're fat as hell. You're not going to want to take your shirt off anywhere. You're going to be grossed out by yourself every time you see a picture of yourself. So start now. So it was like May or June 1st or something I started. And it was tough, man, because I was used to eating pasta and just whatever I wanted all the time. Come home from work and slap a hot dog on top of a hamburger and a buttery bun.
Put some pizza on it.
Yeah, why not? Who cares? Pepperonis, we got something on there. And that's how I was eating. And so I started with Livia, and then it was like when I cut out a lot of the alcohol, because I stopped drinking for a few months, and when I cut the alcohol out and I started getting the proper nutrition, and the biggest thing is when I started sleeping correctly, it felt so good. I just wanted more and more and more of it. So, like a month in, I'd maybe lost 10 pounds, but to me, I felt like I lost 100. Like my face wasn't puffy anymore. I didn't have that uncomfortable tight pant feeling all the time anymore. And so I was just like, this has to keep going. And then it was, I was losing about 3 pounds a week after that, because I was strict. I was not allowing salt, no sugar, no salt, nothing. So I actually ended up losing 50 pounds, but I've put 10 back on since then. I couldn't maintain that. I couldn't maintain no salt, no, no nothing.
Right. And it's not a way to live.
But it was right. And so I've kind of settled now and have being down about 40 pounds. I'm sitting at about 165 right now, which I haven't seen since right out of high school. But it was really a more of just a health decision. Man, I had like all these weird pains all the time. Like, I don't know if it was from drinking or from just being fat or God knows what, but I would like my heels. I felt like the oldest man ever when I would stand up because my heels would just ache. And I thought I probably had, needed to go get surgery, but no, it just turns out I was just a fat ass who needed to lose some weight. Like that was the most happy thing that happened to me is I didn't have this foot pain anymore. So I could run around with my kids and I'd be like, hold on a second. Jonathan, maybe the same thing for you too, because you didn't have as much weight to lose as I did, but you kind of look at your kids and you're like, man, I am not being a good dad to these kids because I'm so tired and fat all the time and drunk. That's kind of a reoccurring theme. I've got that under control, just so you know. It's not a problem anymore. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I'm right behind you, man. I'm messing with that too. I have those same feelings of like my collared shirts at work are kind of like pulling out. The buttons are starting to pull out. The tightness in the pants. It really does weigh on you a little bit, literally. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was saying it's easy for me, so I don't really drink at all because my wife just doesn't drink. I think if my wife drank, then it would probably be a little more easier for me to open that door. But my wife is just so boring when it comes to any kind of alcohol, so that makes it easy. But food is still my biggest challenge, I guess, because I can. Like, she doesn't drink, but if I bring up let's go get Whataburger, then she's down to go get some Whataburger. But
without the alcohol in your system, I'll go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was going to say you hit the nail on the head. Like I was looking at my kids and I didn't want my kids to think I was fat. And when I started losing the weight, I realized my anxiety just was diminishing. And I realized my panic attacks, because I was having severe panic attacks, man, where I thought I was having a heart attack. And then, weeks after that, I would have like a little like heart rush and I was like, oh my God, I'm about to die. Like, but I started dropping the weight and then all that stuff just kind of stopped. So
that's one of the lessons I wish I'd have learned before I got let go from Hot 93, because I was all about the partying and the downtown and and I wish I would have realized that the alcohol was causing anxiety, which was keeping me from sleeping, which was making me depressed, which was making me less creative, which was making me lazy. Like, I wish I would have realized all the negative things that were coming from alcohol. You guys know who Bobby Bones is. I know, Jonathan, you know who Bobby Bones is.
Yeah. Do you know Bobby Bones? Man.
He's on a national syndicated radio show. He's on American Idol. Like, he's one of the biggest like radio people right now. And I look up to him so much because he didn't drink. He didn't get into the partying aspect of radio. He hustled and he networked and he did everything you're supposed to do. And now he's, multi-millionaire, got his own show called Breaking Bobby Bones. I mean, he's just got, and I wish I would have gotten on this. I wish I would have lost this weight 15 years ago, because I would be a completely different person right now. But whatever. I mean, I'm sure on my deathbed, it'll come to me why I was so lazy for so long.
You're still very young.
I got that to live for. I got that.
You're still very young. I mean, you can still do it. And you look, I don't know how you looked before, but you look pretty fit now. Handsome man.
Yeah. Hey, this is that kind of podcast?
Yeah, take your shirt off.
Yeah, let's see what you got.
All right, I'm stay upstairs. It's about to get weird.
It's what we thought, honey.
No, I would do a ghetto thing and like hold up a side-by-side picture on my phone of what I looked like.
Yeah.
But I don't even know where it is. But it was I was puffy, man. My biggest, I was probably tipping the Toledos at about 220. And for a guy who's 5'8", 5'9", that is way too much. You're way too much at that point.
Yeah, I don't think you I I don't remember you being real heavy in Austin, but I guess you gained all the weight whenever you moved. But see, even when you were being, oh wow,
oh man, that's not that much.
no, I mean look at his
It
chin.
was pretty bad.
Yeah,
That's pretty bad.
well, me and you gain the weight at the same spots. Like our face get really, we have no neck basically.
Yeah. That's a chubby face, man. And I'm sure I was trying to like do all the tricks I could to make it not look fat.
Well, you're on radio, so it doesn't matter that much. I guess unless you're being social out in public.
And up here, it's like where I live, people just aren't as fit. Like towards Minneapolis, I live in a suburb of Minneapolis, but towards Minneapolis, it's one of the most fittest cities in the country. But out here, everyone's all fat and lazy, and I'm like, cool. I found my people. I'm going to be fat the rest of my life. Fine. but if I was fooling myself, I was just trying to like rationalize how crappy I felt all the time.
So how is it like being on a morning country show now? Like from going to hip hop to doing morning show, and how's it like having a guy co-host compared to having Mimi in the morning?
Mimi is my girl. Always will be. I had some of the best times ever on the radio with her. And the funny thing is, I'm not doing much of a different show now than I was doing on the hip hop station. And that's I think that's why I always had so much success, is because I never changed who I was. I wasn't on the hip hop station like trying to be like, oh man, I know I'm white, but I'm down with y'all. I talked to this, and I think that's why people liked me on the hip hop station, because I never changed. I never tried to be something I wasn't. I think people smell that, and they kind of cringe away from it. It's subconsciously they know you're not being real. So the show I'm doing now is essentially the same show. Still a lot of relationship stuff. I will tell you this though, my co-host now has taught me a work ethic. Like in radio, I always kind of half-assed it in radio because I was good at it. So I didn't need to give it 1,000% all the time. But to match his level of work, I've definitely stepped up my level of work. And so we're a two-guy morning show, but we make it work so well. That's why we're number one across the board, especially with females 25-54. I mean, because they're essentially listening to two guys who aren't being macho. We don't talk about sports or anything like that. We're just two honest guys who don't know a lot about women or don't know a lot about, the other day we were talking about having a hysterectomy, or not a hysterectomy, getting your tubes tied versus that's what they call it.
Yeah.
Right? What the heck do they call it when I got a vasectomy?
Oh, vasectomy. There you go. Same thing.
But women love hearing stumble through this stuff and just being honest about it. We're not gross. We're not like shock jocks gross. Two guys. He's about to turn 40. I'm 45. We're two guys with kids who are struggling to try and figure out how to raise kids and all that stuff. He's a very, and we're so opposite. He's so like macho absentee dad. I talk about crying all the time on the air and stuff like that. So it just very much works. I mean, when I was on the air with Mimi, it was lightning in a bottle. And not many people get to do that again. And I definitely have lightning in a bottle. Like we're looking at syndicating in a couple of cities right now. And they're not even country stations that are looking at picking us up because it's not a country morning show. When we do like entertainment news and stuff like that, we make sure that we have a connection to the music. But with other things, it's a relationship based. It's a top. It could be on a top, maybe not a top 40 station because it's not that young, but it could definitely be on a station with that played older hits.
Right.
And because we get along so well, me and Matt Wood is his name. That dude is so talented, so funny. We get along so well that there's never any fake laughter on the air. Remember how we used to make fun of like the DJs and be like, there's just like all this fake laughter. And it's like, no one said anything funny. No one said anything. Why are you laughing that freaking hard? So with this, it's just he's so funny and we make each other laugh. And it's lightning in a bottle, man. I know that this show will become something. And I have no doubt in my mind. It's better than 90% of what I hear on the radio because it's some of the realest radio
right
that you're ever going to hear. It's not contrived. That's the word I was. I knew it was fumbling around in there somewhere. God, stupid ass dog.
That's all good. Hey, are y'all? I haven't seen you post like your Saturday Y'all used to post like Saturday podcasts. Are y'all going to start doing that? Like that's separate from the morning show?
Yes, we will again. We just need a day that we can record it because we're trying to grow the show so much. The show is so much more than it was 2 years ago.
Uh-oh.
Where when we get off the air, we're still working for 2 hours.
Hey, Boogie.
To get everything done.
Hey, Boogie, you're breaking up a little bit.
So that just kind of came like a.
You're good now.
I see you now.
Am I back?
Yep, I think you're back now.
All right. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
You guys are. All right. I'm like moving it around like it's a TV antenna.
Come on now. I can't focus on you.
You got a little some aluminum foil up there or something.
Yeah, like it's like it's rabbit ears.
We got you.
But yeah. I don't even remember what the hell I was saying before that happened.
You were talking about the Saturday podcast.
Oh yeah, we'll get back to it. Right now, it's just a matter of time. Like we just don't have enough time hours in the day to get everything done.
Yeah. Like
this morning, because I knew I had this podcast to do. And I got up at 2:30 this morning so I could be to work by 3:30, so I could get all my work done before 11 o'clock to be here with you guys. So that's the only reason we're not doing it. It's a time issue. We work our butts off.
What do y'all, as you know, being in the radio business, what do y'all think about the podcast industry? Like everyone and their mom has a podcast now. How does that interfere with radio?
I think it's just like everything from the dawn of time. It's going to take a chunk out of it. It'll probably more take a chunk out of talk radio.
Yeah.
But it's like, when cassette tapes came out, it's like, well, this is the end of radio. No, it never was. CDs. Well, this is the end of radio. No, it wasn't. Spotify. No, iTunes first. iTunes. This is it, man. Radio's done. Nope. Spotify. This is it. Radio's done. No, I think it's the human connection. And like, even I listen to the radio and I'm sick of every song on the radio by the time I do, but I want that companionship sometimes. And 2, I just want someone else to do the work of picking music. I don't want to connect my phone to Bluetooth. Now let me scroll through 10 million songs to find the perfect song for this moment right now. It's like, sometimes I just want someone else to do the work. So podcasting, like everything else, has its place. I mean, you got some of the heavy hitters out there, but I mostly listen to podcasts. There's one called Garage Logic that I listen to all the time. And it's more of just a companion. It's like, sometimes I want talk, sometimes I want music. I think the worst part about radio, the worst thing radio did, the biggest mistake they made is when iTunes came along and streaming came along and they thought, well, we need to compete with that. And what they didn't realize is we had something special. We had a local feel. And so instead of doubling down on what was working, it's like I said earlier, it's like, let's have one DJ do 30 stations. He'll just say this is, hey, I was driving down I-35 today and saw an accident. Yeah. That'll make them think I'm there. It's like, it's stupid. Radio made some big mistake. That's why I have tons of respect for where I work now, because even though it's a smaller company, this dude is trying his hardest to keep local radio alive, and it's working. I mean, we crush every station that isn't local alive. So podcasting, like everything else, it'll take its bite out of radio, and we'll find ways to adapt. Like we are with every radio show having its podcast. Trying to at least show like, hey, we know about this world too. Over here too.
When I knew that, because I thought that Spotify, iTunes and all the podcasts, I thought that was going to kill radio. But when the when the freeze happened in Texas, that's all we had, or that's all I had, was because my power was off. So I had to go to, the radio apps on my phone to listen to the local people talk on the radio. That's when I knew, that's my only way to get local news is through the radio. What's happening now? When's the power going to come back up? All that good stuff. So that kind of reaffirmed, like, no, you're spot on, where it needs to be local. That they need to allow more talking time. I guess I don't know what the radio business is, but I feel like they need to play less music and allow more talking.
And maybe not compare them either.
Yeah.
They're like separate things. Maybe not compare them either. They're almost separate things. I mean, they're very similar, but I mean, maybe not. Yeah.
Right. but it's like saying TV is somewhat similar to the radio too. You know, it's like, yeah, they're all media. You know, a magazine is somewhat comparable to a podcast, right? A newspaper, whatever. They're all comparable, but the difference with radio is from everything else is not only were you getting up to the minute updates on what was going on, you were getting it from someone who's going through it with you. You were getting it from someone who's in your town who also had to fight traffic to get to, who had to sacrifice their life to get to the radio station that morning. And subconsciously, that has an effect on you. You trust that person more than you do if I were to jump on the radio in Austin and be like, oh man, it's where I used to live looks really bad today.
Right.
Like, well, F you, you're not down here going with us. And that's where, like I said, that's where radio made its biggest mistake. And when we syndicate, we're still going to do local breaks, and we'll do local breaks for every station we're on. Some stations have to syndicate. They don't have the money to pay for a full-on morning show. So it has to happen that way. But we'll still do local breaks in our town. You know, we'll still be as local as we can possibly be, because it still goes a long way with people. They want to know you live where they live. You're doing what they do. It goes a long way.
Yeah. No, I think
Joe Rogan is not driving down my street. You know, as much as I love listening to his podcast, he's not living. Well, now he's kind of living what I went through because he moved to Austin. But
I think that's why I grow. Like I kind of grew closer to like Todd and Don, Mark and them throughout some of the, you know, the Bass Route fires and all that stuff when I got out of radio, and I stopped working with them because they're right there. I know that they're talking about that stuff. And also I think, you know, subconsciously I'm like, I used to work with them. I know what they're kind of doing in the studio. That's why it kind of makes it kind of fun. And same thing too, when I listen to you, the Kelly and Wood show, I listen to your podcast, but I can kind of like get a vibe as to what the vibe is going on in the room. So.
Yeah. I hope it sounds fun, because we're definitely having a ton of fun in there, but that human connection, man. I think as time goes on, we're going to crave it more and more, because we're becoming less. Look at now, distance learning, for God's sake. Look at how many people are in a virtual office. Don't you just once in a while want to have a good conversation with somebody like this? I would much rather be in that room with you guys. If I was in that room with you, I probably wouldn't have rambled on for so long, and we would be we'd probably be having more fun, right? Because we'd be in the same room together. We'd probably be laughing more. We wouldn't be having internet issues. And I'm trying to move this thing around.
Come on, man. You're vertigo, man.
Yeah. Hold on. There we go.
Where are you at?
Yeah, it's people. We're social beings, and you're never gonna, unless in a million years, maybe that'll evolve out of us. But we want to roam in a pack. It's evolutionary that we're that way, and so I think radio gives you some of that. You know, when I tell stories about my dad, people just absolutely love them because they can relate to it, and they're not always funny. I tell stories about my dad when he passed away, you know, and how hard that was on me, and how I always bring that up to my kids. Don't start smoking because you know what, Papa Gill. And people are drawn to that because they're like, yes, I have lost a parent too, or I would hate to feel that way, or this guy is going through pain too. We crave it more than we. I think we realize we crave it more than we ever did.
Yep.
Boy, I'm just circling around.
Oh no, you're good, man. So we're gonna like start wrapping it up because we got the wrong SD card in our camera. We don't want the camera to die in the middle of us talking. But real quick, what I wanted to, real quick. Oh, that's the other thing too. Oh, well, let me ask you this: what tips can you give to Mike and I about podcasting? You know, we got janky ass GoPros, and we obviously put the wrong SD card in on this time. But what, I guess, from an audio perspective, what can we do to help grow our audience a little bit?
Your audio sounds good, and the podcast looks great. It really does. The first time I saw it, I was like really surprised at how good you guys had it dialed in. The biggest thing with podcasting is consistency. It has to be there. You have to form a pattern with people. The guy that we work with, the Randy Lane Group right now, which is a consulting company, and they consult Jimmy Kimmel, they consult Facebook, they consult Uber. Like these are heavy hitters right here. So they really understand podcasting. And that is the biggest thing, is consistency and getting on other podcasts. Whether it's, you know, like I'll post this on our podcast, and maybe you guys will get a few listens out of it. Cool. Then that's a win for you.
Yeah.
If somebody else in your town, if a realtor in your town has a podcast, which a lot of them do, go try and be on it. Try and get them on your podcast. Have them promote. There's room for everybody in the podcast realm.
Right.
You know, you don't have to have a million streams to win. 10,000 is a win, right? So the biggest thing is being there when people want you. Like, we're going on vacation next week. I downloaded a ton of audio. I'm still going to post a podcast every day when we're on vacation because I want to stay in that habit of people. Even if they don't listen to it, it's still there every day.
Right.
That is the biggest lesson I have learned, because we were about 2 months off during COVID because we're in the studio together. Our podcast tanked. It's taken me till now to get it back.
Wow.
And now we do about 400 to 500 downloads a day, which is really good for us. For us, it's really good.
Yeah. Is there a particular day that's better to post, or a day of the week, or time, morning, afternoon?
I don't know. That would only be for people that are following the podcast, waiting for it to download. We do it because we're on the air. We want to make sure it's ready to go 30 minutes after the show, no later than 30 minutes after the show. I post it at about 10 o'clock every single day, 9:30, 10 o'clock every single day. I do find that Monday and Friday are our least listened to, and Wednesday is our most listened to day.
Wow.
I don't know what that means. I don't know if people are saving them up. I don't know why. It drives me nuts. If I pour over these analytics and I can't figure a dang thing out. But that's our biggest day. And I think a lot of people will message us like, oh, I have a long drive on Wednesday, so I save up the podcast for them because I got to drive 2 hours that day or whatever. And that's what people do too. I do that too. I save up podcasts for vacation. Like, if I know I'm going to go on vacation, I won't listen to a podcast for 2 weeks before, so I can just binge listen on the way down. And binge listening, that's to really get people to become just a part of it. And you guys are doing the right thing. Like, I see your little thumbnails pop up. I'm like, great, they posted another one. This is awesome.
Yeah.
People getting that pattern. But what I wouldn't do is, like, 1 week you do it Tuesday, Thursday. The next week you do it Monday, Wednesday. Yeah. Like, set days and stick to those days. I don't know how many you're doing right now, but if it's 3, do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. If it's 2, do Tuesday, Thursday, and make sure it's consistent. Because I listen to one podcast that only comes out once a week, but I've gotten in the habit of knowing it comes out Thursday. And so Thursday I get in my car and that's the podcast I go to. Okay. Bill Burr does a great podcast on Mondays and Thursdays. And I've become in the habit of, all right, Monday morning, way to work, I'm going to listen to Bill Burr. It's about building that habit.
Okay.
And the most important question, those are good questions, but when you watch the podcast, who looks better?
Tough one, man. It's a flip of the coin right there.
I don't like that answer, but
the guest always looks better.
Yeah, you're the better look. Whatever, but
man, I feel weird calling you Kelly. By the way, I don't know how you feel being called Boogie, but I can't call you Kelly. One, because my wife is Kelly.
Is that weird for you?
Well, I was your wife. I was your work wife at one time. But, no, I love it, man. It brings, like, my old boss from back then still calls me Boogie. Everyone who knew me then still does, and I love it because it was one of the best times of my life. So it's very, like, near and dear to my heart when people still say it. Like, I remember James Fields used to a lot of the clubs that we worked at. I just talked to him. That dude's making a ton of money. Like, he is so inspiring now. You need to get him on here, man. You want to talk about a success story? Yeah, no, you can call me whatever you want, man. Boogie is cool with me, man. It harkens back to a simpler time.
Yeah, it probably brings back a bunch of memories. Where does Boogie come from, anyways?
People used to call me K Boogie for some reason at the clubs when I was a club DJ, and I don't know where that came from. But, that was a long time. We're talking 20 years ago. I'd have to go back in the memory banks here, and they used to call me K Boogie. And then when I came to Austin, I think there was a real DJ named K Boogie, and so we just dropped the K and I became Boogie. Nice. It stuck for a long time, man.
Yep.
That's funny.
Well, man, I appreciate you blessing our podcast and making and bringing some validity to it. So,
well, I don't know about that. I'll do it anytime you want, man. If you can't find a guest, just tell me and I'll come ramble on again just so you guys can stay consistent.
Well, I'll see you next week then.
I'll have to fly you out.
But hang on after we stop this because I don't want to just drop it. But I appreciate it, Boogie. Thank you, man.
Hey, anytime, guys. It was fun. I hope I didn't talk too much.
No, you're good. Bye.